In this tutorial, I'm going to show you 10 ways to decorate cakes with chocolate chips. At the end, I'll share tips on melting chocolate properly and making ganache and colouring it. For the full tutorials on any of the decorating ideas you see in this video, check the video description for the links. Okay, here we go! To make stencil chocolates to use as cake toppers, melt chocolate chips and spread them over parchment paper or wax paper. Score lines wherever you want to cut the chocolate later, to make whatever shape you like. Straight lines are a lot easier to do than curved lines. Leave the chocolate to set at room temperature for about an hour, or in the fridge for about 30 minutes, and then place a stencil over the top, and pour more melted chocolate on top and smooth the chocolate with a frosting smoother or an offset spatula, taking all of the chocolate off the stencil. Peel the stencil back to reveal the design. Cut the chocolate where you made the lines earlier, and the shapes should break off neatly. You can paint these with luster dusts if you like, and press them into a cake to add some height. To wrap a cake in chocolate, assemble your cake and cover it in a thin coat of frosting, which needs to cover up the whole cake so it doesn't dry out, but it doesn't need to be neat because we're going to cover it up. Put the cake in the fridge to set the frosting and then wrap a piece of parchment paper around your cake and trim it so it's just a little bit longer and at least as tall as the cake. Melt chocolate chips and pour the melted chocolate onto the parchment, spreading the chocolate all the way over the edges. Lift the paper up before it sets and wrap it around the cake, pressing it against the sides, and then put the cake back in the fridge for an hour to set the chocolate. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my YouTube channel for a new cake decorating tutorial every week. Peel the parchment off, wipe any smudges of chocolate from the cake board using a paper towel wrapped around your finger, and decorate the cake with chocolates, fruit, flowers, or a ribbon. For the neatest slices, dip a knife into hot water before you cut into this cake. To make gorgeous, sparkly cake toppers, poke a lollipop stick into a marshmallow, twisting it to make it stick. Melt chocolate chips and dip the marshmallow into it, tilting the bowl and spinning the marshmallow to coat it in chocolate. Tap off any excess chocolate. Now straight away, while the chocolate is still sticky, press the marshmallow into a bowl of sprinkles, twisting it to cover the entire marshmallow. You can push these sticks into a cake for a quick and colourful cake topper. Mix different amounts of melted chocolate chips into buttercream to create different shades of brown, which you can then use to create ombre frosting. After crumb coating your cake with a thin layer of frosting, spread the different colours of chocolate buttercream in bands around the cake so that the colours get darker or lighter as you go down the sides of the cake. Smooth the frosting with a frosting scraper or use a textured cake comb. To make chocolate shapes to use as cake toppers, melt chocolate chips and add colour if you want to. This is black gel in semi-sweet chocolate chips, but if you use white chocolate chips, you can use any colour. Lay out a silicone mat or parchment paper and arrange some cookie cutters on top. Spoon the melted chocolate into them, pushing the chocolate right up to the edges and corners of the cookie cutters. If you like, you can pour sprinkles on top of the chocolate now, while the chocolate is still melted and sticky. Leave them there to set, or slide a cutting board underneath so you can lift them up, and chill them in the fridge for about 30 minutes so that they set more quickly. Lift the cookie cutters up and push the chocolate out, pushing gently all over the shape to ease it out gradually so that it doesn't crack or snap. Attach these to a cake by piping a swell and pressing the shape into it to secure it. Use chocolate chips to make mini chocolate chip cookies to decorate a cake of any flavour, or a chocolate chip cookie layer cake like this. My chocolate chip cookie recipe, which I used for these cake layers and the mini cakes, is on BritishGirlBakes.com. Pipe frosting to attach the cookies, like these open star rosettes, which I'm piping with an 8B tip. For a dramatic chocolate sail, melt chocolate chips and spread them onto parchment paper. Drape the paper over a bottle or an upside-down bowl and leave it to set for about an hour or in the fridge for 30 minutes. Gently peel the parchment paper away from the chocolate and then press the sail into the frosting on a cake, or you can pipe some rosettes or swirls and push the sail into the frosting to attach it. For these next 3 ideas, use chocolate chips to make ganache, which I explain in detail how to do at the end of this tutorial, with the ingredient amounts for each decorating technique. To make truffles, after you make your ganache, let it rest until it thickens, or you can speed this process up by putting the bowl in the fridge for 10 minutes at a time, stirring it to make sure lumps don't form. Scoop the ganache up with a spoon and roll it between your hands to shape it into a ball. You can use a tablespoon or one of those little melon ball scoopers if you want to make sure that every truffle is exactly the same size. Roll the truffles in a bowl of cocoa powder or powdered sugar or sprinkles and place them on top of your cake, onto a drip that hasn't set yet so that the truffles stick to it, or you can pipe swirls of frosting and press the truffles into those. You can make donuts with cake batter and use chocolate chips to make a decadent ganache glaze for them. Let the donuts cool and then dip them in the ganache, flipping them back over onto a rack to let the ganache settle. You can make coloured ganache for this, and I'll show you how at the end of this video. If there's a bubble of ganache in the hole of the donut, you can tap the donuts a few times on the rack to pop the bubble, or put the donuts on the rack and tap the rack itself on the counter. Decorate the donuts with sprinkles or crushed nuts, or drizzle them with another colour of ganache. For a chocolate ganache drip, use a squeezy bottle or a spoon to drizzle the drip around the edge of the top of the cake, moving it just over the edge of the cake wherever you want there to be a drip, and pausing for a moment before pulling it back inwards and continuing around the cake until you want to make the next drip. I like to use one of these bottles for more control, and it's quicker too, but a spoon will work as well. Depending on how far you pull your spoon or bottle back in off the edge of the cake after each drip, you can create more of a flowing drip instead of the individual strands. The ganache has to be at room temperature for this, and the cake needs to be chilled in the fridge first to stop the drips running all the way down to the bottom of the cake. Pour more ganache onto the top of the cake and spread it around to cover the top, right up to the ring of drips. If your ganache is too thick, the drips will be thick and short, so you need more cream. Or if it's too thin, the drips will run all the way down the cake, so you need more chocolate in the ganache. I hope you've seen some decorating ideas you like. Now for some tips on melting chocolate and making ganache. To melt chocolate without burning it, put it in a bowl in the microwave for 1 minute at a time at 50% power. Then stir it and put it back in the microwave, stir it again, and if you have a lot of chocolate you might need to repeat this again, until the chocolate is nice and smooth. You can do this for milk chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate, or white chocolate chips. The process is the same. 50% power and short intervals of heating are key. If you heat the chocolate on a high heat for too long, you'll burn the chocolate and it will seize up and become grainy, like this, or discolour, like this. For ganache, pour out your chocolate chips using a scale to weigh them or cups to measure them. I'll give you the ingredient amounts in a moment. You can do this in the microwave by adding heavy whipping cream or double cream and putting the bowl in the microwave for 30 seconds. Stir it, and then microwave for another 30 seconds, and then stir again. Repeat until the ganache is smooth with no lumps of chocolate. You can also make ganache on the stove, and this is my favourite way to do it because I like to see what I'm doing. Heat the cream in a pan until bubbles form around the edges of the pan, but don't let it boil. Take the pan off the stove and add the chocolate chips, pushing them around to cover them with the cream. Leave it like this for 5 minutes and then stir until it's smooth. If you have any lumps in your ganache, put the pan back on the stove over a low heat, and stir or whisk until the ganache is smooth. The process is the same for white chocolate, although the quantity of white chocolate for ganache is different to the quantity of semi-sweet chocolate, and I'll cover that next. I just want to mention first that you can add colour to white chocolate ganache. I use gel colours, the same ones I use for my buttercream, and they work perfectly as long as you don't add huge amounts of gel or stir too much after adding them, because that can cause the ganache to seize and become thick and grainy. Coloured ganache can be used for drips or donut glaze, and it looks beautiful, as well as tasting delicious. The ratio of chocolate to cream is different for different kinds of chocolate, and also for different techniques, like truffles, drips, or donut glazes. For truffles made with semi-sweet chocolate, use 2 parts of chocolate to 1 part of cream. For example, 200 grams of chocolate and 100 grams of cream. For white chocolate, you'll need more chocolate, so use 4 parts of white chocolate to 1 part of cream. For a drip with semi-sweet chocolate, you'll need 3 parts of chocolate to 2 parts of cream, so for example 300 grams of chocolate and 200 grams of cream, or 600 grams of chocolate and 400 grams of cream. For white chocolate, you'll need 3 parts of chocolate to 1 part of cream. I hope this tutorial has been useful. Please remember to click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for a new cake decorating tutorial every week.